Recognized. What purpose does the gentleman from Florida arise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to take my special order this time.
Without objection.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Monday, I had the great privilege of watching the launch of the Space Shuttle Atlantis at Kennedy Space Center. As a resident of Brevard County, Florida, it's an experience of which I'll never tire, and one which I earnestly encourage everyone to see, especially members of Congress and the President, while they still can. While we have the grandeur of Monday's launch fresh in our minds, I find the proposed NASA budget very disappointing. The budget plan essentially flatlines NASA's budget for the next 5 years and appears to spawn an abrupt end to the space shuttle in 2010. Washington is spending trillions of dollars on other programs, but has not seen fit to make human spaceflight a priority at this time. NASA will attempt to complete the remaining flights of the space station manifest in 2010 within the constraints of its budgetary straitjacket. However, any flights that extend beyond September 2010 will be funded by borrowing money from the next generation vehicle, the Constellation, under the just-released 2010 budget plan. The plan is unacceptable to me, and I hope it's unacceptable to you and my other colleagues. Also disappointing is the proposed open-ended review of the shuttle's successor, and the fact it was not begun months ago. Time is of the essence, as critical decisions are being made today that will impact NASA for the next several decades. America's space shuttle only has 8, possibly 9 more launches. After that, many of the world's greatest engineers and technicians will be laid off from their jobs, and American taxpayers will pay Russians hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to take American astronauts to the International Space Station. This ironic arrangement is likely to last for a minimum of 3 years and likely very longer, until the next generation launch vehicle comes online. Various memos and budget blueprints in Washington may portray this arrangement with the Russians as an unwelcome necessity, but it's become a necessity only due to a lack of America's priorities. It is wishful thinking on bureaucratic whiteboards that America can lay off this invaluable workforce and 3 years or more later expect to regroup them and rebrand them in the shuttle's successor program. The transition is unlikely to be seamless, and I speak from experience. You know, in my younger days, I worked on the Apollo 11 program. I had the best job in the whole world that anyone my age could possibly have, inspecting rockets bound for the moon. But when the program came to an end, and it came abruptly, I and many of my fellow colleagues, some of the brightest minds in the world, less than excepting me, of course, were given pink slips. Mr. Speaker, Monday's launch represents one thing the United States is undeniably, unequivocally, and universally respected for around this globe. Friends and foes alike acknowledge that the United States of America is truly the leader in space. So it's astonishing to me that we were so near the brink of yielding this military and economic high ground to Russia or China, or someone else for that matter. Let us bear in mind that the Chinese are not going to the moon solely to collect moon rocks. History has shown a progression in regards to our security which we ignore at our own pale. You know, it started back in Old Testament times when whoever could wield the biggest bone controlled the security of the land. And then who could muster the biggest army? And then who could get the straightest spears and the strongest shields? And then whoever had the strongest navies, you know, when Sweden and Spain were the greatest powers in the world. And then in the World War I, whoever could build the most mechanized army, that could build the most tanks, determined how secure the world would be. And in World War II, it was the Air Force. Whoever controlled the air would control the security of this nation. And today, it's space. Whoever controls space will control what security there will be on this earth. Today, the conflict between nations has also evolved beyond bayonets, bullets, and bombs. We're in an economic war of survival. I fear that many take our position for granted and assume that our prosperity will continue indefinitely into the future because we have been so blessed with prosperity this far. The President has said he wants half of our nation's GDP to come from high-tech, and as you know, you can't get any more high-tech than space. We take for granted the countless spin-offs and inventions from NASA, which has been issued over 6,000 patents. NASA's spin-off database lists over 1,600 items since 1976. Farmers rely on their weather satellites. We all rely on GPS now. We don't give a second thought to the use of our cell phones or our Blackberries, our laptops, or even Velcro for that matter. I can remember when a computer processor used to take up an entire room. Now for $5 you can go down to Walmart and get a little calculator that'll fit in your wallet for the same and do the same things. Mr. Speaker, nothing represents the future and what is possible for mankind more than space. The future is not yet written. We have not yet reached the point of no return. The NASA budget is not etched in stone. We can make the right decisions to reduce the space gap, minimize the loss of our shuttle workforce, and move ahead with the shuttle successor. These objectives are compatible, desirable, and overlap with the President's stated intentions to strengthen technology as our economic base. In conclusion, I call on the leaders of this body to revamp the NASA budget and to think about the implications should we travel down the path that's currently set. America can do better, and future generations of Americans deserve better. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I yield the balance of my time, if any.
Time's expired. Ms. Woolsey from California is recognized.